Hello, welcome to the Writing Gals. We're four sweet romance authors here to talk to you all things writing and publishing. And for the month of March, we're going to be talking about rom-coms specifically. So if you have any questions about writing and publishing rom-coms, put them in the comments below. We would love to get to them. But first, before we get to that, let's talk about what we've all been up to. So Victorine, why don't you start off for us?
Oh, I'm just plugging away on my Kindle Vella story. It is Angels Can't Fall in Love, something like that. Um, and the last chapter I wrote, it's the episode, I titled it, Don't Worry, You'll Be Dead Anyway, which cracks me up.
I love it.
It's just a fun story. I'm having a blast with it. So I'm writing on that.
Oh, that's amazing. It sounds good. I wish I could read it. What is it? Amazon, if you are watching this, bring it to the UK, please.
Yes,
I want
exactly.
Kindle Vella.
I want it everywhere. I think it's only in the US right now.
Oh, hopefully they roll it out soon. Amy, what are you up to?
Just not trying hard not to lose my mind by doing all this admin crap that I don't want to do, but I don't want to not do. So uploading covers, updating back matter, taking my random books and putting them into my rules series. So my rules series is longer, trying to write, but not being motivated at all to do it. And I was just telling these ladies earlier, because it's like, why put another book out if it's just going to be another book that I'm going to have to update back matter for and covers for? And I'm like, I don't want to add to my stress level right now. So taking this year, really, I keep trying to remind myself, like you said, 2022 is selling your backlist. Like last year was growing and now it's selling. And so I'm trying to be okay with being okay with not writing words, even though I should, because I have one pre-order and I think it will probably be the only book I release this year.
Wow.
And I just pushed it the 2 months forward because it's supposed to be due in May 1st. And I was like, I need more time. I want more time. Like my whole goal is to have more time with my books, to write better books, to really push them, publish them, have fun with them. And I'm done with the rat race of writing and all the time. Like I don't want to do that anymore. I want to put like 2 books out. Each of them hit USA Today bestseller. Like I want to live with my books and have fun with them. I just feel like in the past it was like, okay, publish this book. Now get on the next one, literally the next day. Yeah. And I'm done. I'm done with that. So yeah, trying not to go crazy doing all this, the stuff that we put off doing because we hate doing it.
It's amazing how much of this job is not writing. My family are always saying to me, oh, now you've finished that book, you're going to have a break now. You're going to have a break. And I'm like, writing the book is like a tiny slither of what we have to do, and updating that back matter, it's hard work.
And redoing covers, and now they have new cover templates, and now they have hardback covers, and it's just a never ending. I did get monetized on YouTube though. I had a TikTok that went like semi-viral, and I got tons of subscribers. So now I'm monetized there, which is nice. That's something I can check off my list of things. But now I have to keep uploading audiobooks. It's a long time to do that. So it's
got to add that to that to-do list.
Who has time to write anymore? Like, what is writing? I don't even remember.
Michelle, what have you been up to?
I've been slogging my way through a couple of weeks of like depression and burnout and all this sort of stuff. And so I'm really excited because yesterday I kind of pulled myself up on my bootstraps, and with the help of my cleaning lady that saves my life, I got my house clean, which that's amazing. You know, it just makes you feel a lot better. And then today the sun is shining and it's like 70 degrees. So I opened all the windows and I can hear the birds singing, and it's just helping my mood. Like I recognized yesterday I was taking some trash out and just stepping outside for 30 seconds. I was like, ooh, I feel good out here. And I thought I just need more like sunshine and outdoor, time. And then I got words written today.
Yay!
Trying to have fun with St. Patrick's Day. I've got some Dublin coddle in the crock pot So like a potato and sausage, I don't know, thing.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, so I'm excited because I also looked at my total word count for my Vampire Academy, my Night Bloom Academy story. And even though I've just been like writing in episodes and not paying attention, I'm already up to 44. By the end of the day, I'll be, 45,000 words on it.
Gosh, that's amazing.
So yeah, so I was feeling kind of down about myself because I haven't been as consistent as I wanted to be on it lately, but I'm making progress. And so, I will be getting stories done this year, and that just makes me feel good. And one more thing, with Amy's generous help, I dipped the very tip of my pinky toe into doing an ad on Facebook, and already seeing like a little trickle of progress there. So I'm excited because that was definitely one of my goals this year, was to get my backlist moving. She spent a lot of time with me just talking about goals and what I needed to do to accomplish them. And so I'm starting to make progress. I think that's what kills us most, right? Is when we feel like we're not living up to our own goals and what we want to do. And so just moving forward is helping me a lot.
Yeah. Tony Robbins said any progress is the antidote of depression. If we don't need perfection. We don't need to be where we want to be. We want to just feel like we're moving. The worst feeling in the world is when you're stuck. And I think it's, for me, so my goal for March was mindset March. And I could kick myself because I feel like I brought on myself lots of tests. It's almost like the universe is like, oh, so you want to test your mindset. So now I have had a lot of mindset monkeys and crazy things I've been working through, and realizing, gosh, there's loads of thoughts that enter my head that are not fact, but I've been treating them like fact. Like things like, oh, I'm never going to sell another one of those books because I've sold loads in the past and everyone who would ever want to read it has read it. I'm like, where did that come from? And I'm so interested if any of you have had these like thoughts enter your mind where you think it's a fact, but then when you stop yourself and go, hang on a minute, I don't think this is true. I challenge you all and everyone watching, every thought that enters your mind, just stop a minute and go, wait a minute, is that fact or is that just something that I'm telling myself or something that someone has told me? I think that's a powerful thing. So so this last week or two, I've got some writing done, but I've been wandering around not knowing what to do with my life and my business. Oh, that's imposter syndrome. Yes, imposter syndrome and I are like this. We're besties, very close. Well, we have a love-hate relationship, I guess. Don't we all? But yeah, that is so true. And I think it's important that when you're trying to write something like Romcom, that you need to quiet those voices of imposter syndrome, because it's very hard to be funny when you feel as funny as a stapler, which in my opinion is not very funny. Anyway.
But that in of itself is hilarious, Laura. So you're funny. Even if you think you're as funny as a stapler, you're funny.
That's funny. Well, yeah, actually, I'm told all the time by my husband that I'm funniest when I'm not trying to be funny. And I'm like, well, that's not helpful.
Yeah, that stinks, right?
Maybe I should just try and write like the driest book ever and everyone will just be rolling around laughing.
That's right.
I don't know. Anyway, so my goal this coming week is to just get some more words in and also to find the joy in the work again. Because as soon as I find things really laborious and like it's just a job, I kind of lose interest. Isn't that terrible? Like, I know I have pre-orders, but I don't want to write the words. They're not fun anymore.
Same with me.
Yeah. So, yeah, so I'm thinking of ways. What ways do you guys, when you have a dry spell or when you just don't want to, how do you bring the fun back? I want to know. Tell me.
I just take in story. So by watching TV shows or movies or reading books, that gets my juices flowing again.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking this morning about how I needed to write today, and I just had this huge knot of resistance in my brain where it literally feels painful to think about
Mhm.
okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna start writing. And as horrible as it is to say, sometimes you just have to like push through that somehow, because as soon as I started getting some words done, like I was 25, 50 words in, and all of a sudden, and that resistance went away. It's
Wow.
just right at that very beginning when the cursor is on a blank page.
Mhm.
And so this is kind of what I'm thinking for the rest of this week, because this week is going to be really important. I'm like the next 7 days, not like calendar week, because my kids are going to be home for spring break. We've got a camping trip planned. Like all these things are going to keep me from writing. So I have to take advantage of my time. And this is what I've realized. Like I have to stop demanding perfection of myself with those first few words. And you keep thinking that eventually that's going to go away, that you're going to stop expecting perfection of yourself. But I think the more you write and the better you get at writing, the more you expect your standards to stay where they are.
Yeah.
And to have everything be perfect, like right when you start. And
Yeah.
I think that that's what causes a lot of my resistance, is that I don't want to write anything that's wrong.
Mhm.
And it feels hard to get to the right words. So I just have to remember, write some bad words, write words that you might erase, just get the writing going to break through that wall. And then everything seems to come together. So I'm just going to keep reminding myself that I don't have to write the right words in the very first sentence.
I love that. I'm writing that down.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's really, really
I
good
always
advice.
I always just keep remembering you can't edit a blank page. And so
Yeah,
no
I'm
matter
writing that
what,
down.
you need to get something down at first, and then you can edit it later and make it better.
Yeah. It's just amazing how physical it feels.
Yeah.
My husband, I mentioned this to you too. He keeps saying, Michelle, I don't think you like writing anymore. And he doesn't get it. Like, I do like writing, but it's so hard to write. And I think a lot of people who aren't creatives can't grasp the concept of why something that you love to do is also the hardest thing to do.
Yes.
I hate washing dishes and I hate folding laundry, but it would be so easy to get up and go do those things. It's doing the thing that I love. And I think it's because I'm a perfectionist and I demand so much of myself and I don't want to ruin the story. So yeah, I just need to learn to do the things that I know that work and stop getting in my own way.
That's so true. And I think as well, some of my best work is when I give myself the grace and the freedom to just write whatever is in my heart, what I want to just put down. Especially when you just get excited about a scene or something, you're like, oh, this could happen. And then, because that happened, this happened. Like you feel all that buzz, whereas before it's like, and then this happened. It's just like, this is so boring. Or sometimes a little trick I do, I'm like giving myself advice because I asked for the advice. But I remember now, when I'm running to a deadline and I can't afford to let imposter syndrome like hold me in a corner, but I cannot get through a particular chapter or scene, I'll put in brackets like finish conversation here, or add a cute scene here, or write something cool here. It's like really big. And then I go to the next thing where I'm like, okay, now they're back together again. Because you know how sometimes they have to have the chat with the best friend and you're like, I don't want them to have the chat. Just get them back with the guy.
So because I'm writing episodes, another thing I figured out is that I get to a very like cliffhanger, finish episode, publish it, accomplish a task kind of place. And then I go to start the next episode and it's so hard to start again. And so this time I'm going to write my episode and then immediately go and write the first paragraph at least of the next episode, so that when I go to get started on that one, I won't have that, huge hurdle of that first paragraph or that first sentence again.
I know people who do that too. So
that's my goal for today.
That's good.
That's a good idea. I'm so glad I came on this live. I'm like learning so much. Anyway, we should probably talk about Romcom and marketing and stuff. I know last time we discussed covers a little bit and the kind of overall branding. So I guess we can just refresh a little bit on reader expectations of what's going to make someone think of Romcom for your cover. But I also wanted to discuss the nuances between the heat levels, because we didn't really talk about this much. And I've noticed that you can get So with the vector covers, you can get kind of all heat levels. So if you write sweet rom-com as opposed to spicy rom-com, what are some of the things that we can have in our branding to make sure that message is really clear so we're getting the right readers? Does anyone want to go first? Everyone wants to think about it.
Well, I think the main difference, right, between spicy and sweet for your cover is how they're dressed, right? So if the guy has the shirt off, that just is a symbol of this is a spicy romance. If they or in they're scantily clad or something like that. I think if they're fully dressed, it kind of gives you the feeling that this is going to be a little more sweet or clean. Other than that, I think you can give clues in the title that you pick, and the way your blurb is written. I think you can give clues in there.
Yeah,
I was going to say, since you asked specifically about rom-com, I think there's very little delineation between the steam levels in rom-com because everybody's using vector art, and the titles are all leaning towards like being like funny, quirky, and not so much like, you know, hot night with the billionaire or, you know, that kind of thing. So I really think that in rom-com, especially, the blurb is very important. And also you can give, you know, a little content information under your blurb right before you do like a call to action. So you can tell readers exactly what to expect. Like if you like steamy hot romance that will set your heart on fire and like make your armpit sweat. I don't know.
What?
I don't know where that came from. Sorry.
Sexy.
I know. I'm sorry. Sometimes my brain spits out like horrible things.
I love it.
But you know what I mean? Like,
keep it coming.
I know. That's the wrong kind of steamy rom. But it might work in rom-com. Who knows? What are you writing about? I've always wanted to write like romance series about like unfortunately like awkward, social, non-attractive people, and that would totally work for that. But anyways, you know, you can just have like, this is what you will find in this story. And then like, if this is for you, then grab it today, buy your book, start reading now, whatever your call to action is at the end of that. I think it's really important because like I said, that's really the best, most straightforward way to put in there what readers can expect. And it's a great way to find your audience too.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I think it's important as well to have, I'm like going against my own advice here, but I do think it's helpful if you're new to start your brand quite, not clean as in your heat level, but clean as in readers know exactly what to expect from you and what heat level and what kind of genre you write in. And like me and Michelle write a lot of different genres under the same name. So yeah, and actually, oh no, Amy, you've put yours in different pen names now, haven't you? Yeah. So if I could go back and do it all over again, I'd be like, right, because I have had emails from readers going, you know, I don't really know what to expect with a Laura Burton book yet. And I'm excited to learn about, like, as you evolve as a writer and what your brand is and what, you know, readers can expect from you in the future. And I was like, oh, I felt attacked in a way, but she was so right, because I've written so many different stories. But that's why I think branding, like I know with Michelle, as long as you make sure that your cover and your blurb is really clear on what it is you're presenting, then you can get away with it. I just feel like it's so much more work. Whereas if you can work on your author branding, and this is sort of going in hand with marketing your rom-com. So if you want to write rom-com and you want to be a rom-com author, what kind of considerations do we need to have about our author branding? Like, what can we incorporate into like our bio and like even our like pictures and everything, or our social media presence? What kind of things can we think about to incorporate that so people are like, oh yeah, they write rom-com? Any ideas?
I went in and I edited my bio to make it a little funnier and less just like informational. Cool. And then like one of the lines in my bio is, I used to have a lot of hobbies until I discovered K-dramas, just kind of like fun little quirky, silly thing. And then I went in and I used to have like, was it like clean romance? What was my tagline, guys?
Multi-genre romance author, right?
I think it was
No, it
sweet
was like-
romance slash genres. Was that
Yes,
it?
that's what it was.
Oh, that was it.
It's Sweet Romance
Yeah.
across genres, and then I still kind of use that in places, but I also went in and made some graphics for like my reader group, and I think my author page on Facebook, different things where it's like it just says like giggle and swoon, like,
Nice.
and just to let them know like the humor is part of this now, but we're still writing the swoony thing. So, and I don't know that those are like working for me super awesome, but yeah, I did try and like, switch my branding a little bit more towards the rom-com-y thing when that started, moving for me. And I'm actually got to go in and work on my website and a lot of that branding stuff in the future. So I'll probably lean more in that direction. But, everybody's got to find their own voice with branding too. Isn't that interesting? Like we talk about writing voice, but we all have a voice with branding too. And it's got to be authentic and it's got to have a clear message. Copywriting is a whole different set of skills that we all have to learn.
Can you imagine how scary a bio would be for like a horror writer who's that same method? Where it's like, when I was a little boy, I wanted to be a serial killer, but I can't kill people, so I write about it instead. Sorry, but that's so funny. I just entered my head. I guess it'll be like black comedy.
But you might want to stick with the same kind of vector art and colors and fonts in your branding too that you would use on a cover.
Good ideas. Amy, what do you think about it all branding wise? Do you think it's even important?
I don't know, because the more that I am pushing my backlist, the more I realize that only very, very few people actually know who I am. And it's more about how I present my book to them at that moment, because people are so bombarded with opportunities to read or view or buy all the time. And so I'm kind of learning to be a bigger author than what I am. I'm going to have to find readers on a different level than the readers that I have built a relationship with throughout my career. And so it's just, to me, it's like, as long as I'm presenting a good book to people, like, I don't know, steam level is important, but I think we think it's more important than it actually is. Like, there are some people who want to read my book because I'm a sweet romance author, and they know I can read any of Amy's books and I can give any of her books, suggest any of her books, because they're going to be clean. Those are my like die-hard fans. But in the grand scheme of the amount of people actually reading, that is like a sliver percentage, like minuscule percentage. And so I'm like, as long as I can explain the story or give it in a way to any reader that they would enjoy this story because it has portions of the story that they're going to love, that they love about this specific type of romance, then I'm going to be able to hook them. And then not having steam isn't as big of a deal because they like all the other things in it too. So that's where my mind is going right now. But like what they said, like covers, but then again, we have so many people now are like, don't put man chest on your covers because it's going to limit your Facebook ad reach and it's going to limit this. And so it's now becoming less of a tell. And then there's like so many people making discrete covers now that are just like a flower on it, or the vector, the element, or whatever it is. And so it gets harder and harder. And I think it's a limiting factor for sweet romance authors because we say a steamy romance reader will not want to read our books. And then limits how far we try to reach because we get scared. Oh, they're going to read my book and they're going to think it's boring, or they're going to read my book and they're going to be looking for that. Like, if you tell readers it's in there and then it's not, don't do that. But like, I think we get so like, no, you have to, you're only going to find the other sweet romance readers. And that's not true. And I think that can sometimes hurt us in terms of reaching out, or seeing all of this, the top rom-com books that are doing super well all have steam. So then we just assume, well, I can't then do well because my book doesn't have steam in it. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah. And Twilight is not steamy, but it was, a sensation at its time. Everybody read it. So, it's interesting. And you touch on that because books that go viral reach readers of all genres, or even people who aren't readers. I read Twilight when I was a new mum, and I had no time for reading, but I found it because I wanted to find out why everyone was so interested in Twilight.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah, I think it's going to be something for all of us to just figure out what works for us. And I think it changes depending on how you market and like where your focus is at. And, some people rely really heavily on newsletters, and some people hate newsletters. Some people use this social media and some people use that one. And so you really need to kind of cater your direction on where you're going and what works well for that. And so for example, Amy's using TikTok a lot and having a lot of success with that. And so she is really grabbing that one reader's attention on this one book really, really hard, and so that's one way to sell a book, whereas I'm not doing TikTok yet because I'm a loser and I haven't gotten it going yet.
Not a loser.
I feel like I am because I've had it on my to-do list every single day for 2 weeks, and all I've done is make my new channel, but I haven't done anything. And I recorded my little base videos I'm going to use. Anyways, talking forward, for me, the only thing currently selling my books right now is just kind of the idea that if I sell one book to one person and they like it, hopefully they'll go read my backlist, right? And so I'm still in that mode. I'm trying to transition wider, but for me right now, my website matters because I get a lot of newsletter signups organically on my website. So I can track that people read a book and they want to know more about me as an author. And I'm trying to build those super fans as well as attracting new readers. I'm hoping to attract a new reader to a new book. And then once I've got them, they want to find everything else that I've read and not just go looking for some other author, right? And so I want them to go to my website. I want them to see what I'm about. I want them to have the same hook, experience with the books that they see on my website. And I want them to want to know what I'm putting out next and sign up for my newsletter. So to me, there's a place for both. There's a place to really focus on how do I sell this one book to as many readers as I can find. And then once I've sold that to them, how do I keep them in my world and make them my fan and buy all my books? Because that's the most, for if you're spending money on marketing for one thing, that's what makes it profitable, is to sell more than one book to them. So it's kind of just one of those things we all have to figure out where to put our focus because there's so many things.
Well, and TikTok can sell a one specific book, but I did a video about how I'm a sweet romance author. I don't have sex in my books. And I sold a ton of books just based on that. So I guess you just have to be are you focusing on I'm a rom-com author? Are you focusing on I'm a sweet romance author? Are you focusing on I wrote a book with this trope in it? Do you want to read it? There's different ways you can approach a book. And so you just kind of have to figure out, if I'm going to bring a reader in, how is the best way for me to hook that reader, bring them in, have them read my stuff, enjoy it, and then realize, there was no sex in this book. I wonder if she writes other ones that do, or maybe she doesn't. Then I'll sign up for her newsletter and those, types of things. I just know for me and my mental blocks, when I focus too much on the top 100 books are full of steamy romance author books, that it tells me, like you were talking about in not accurate things, that only top 100 books will have steam in that. And that is not true, because that's not Harry Potter does not have steam in it. It does not have scenes in it.
True.
But it's always in the top 100. So it's you have to get out of the mindset of this. I'm only going to sell sweet rom-coms to sweet rom-com readers. And you got to me, I think you need to expand it more and realize if I'm giving the person a good enough story, they'll like the book and then come to me and be like, oh, wow, they're a sweet romance author. I can give that book to my, my grandma, and I'm not going to be terrified that she's going to look at me weird on Thanksgiving. That sort of thing. So you asked me this question, and I'm like, it's very, very nuanced to me, But that I'm also in a different stage of my career than a lot of people are too. So I'm a sweet, clean romance author at the beginning, and it's just interesting. It's interesting how things change.
Yeah, I always try and write books where they don't miss the steamy parts, in case I do attract steamy readers, that the story is just compelling and keeps them going and keeps them hooked, and it's exciting and gives them all the feelings that they're looking to have. And maybe at the end of it, they go, oh, wait, there were no steamy parts in that, but I didn't miss it. That's the kind of book I'm trying to write.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. You've got so many levels, haven't you? You've got, do you want to target, so say you've written a rom-com, it's a sweet rom-com, it's a grumpy sunshine trope, it's set in New Zealand, there's all these niches and all these areas of which selling point are you going to use to, get your book out there. And with the likes of TikTok, you can use all of them. And that's something that I am struggling with at the moment, because I like to just tunnel focus on one thing. And I was speaking to a bunch of author friends of mine about this. Like, I have books that I've put too many things in where I could just focus on any of those and be like, well, it's got all these different tropes, it's got all these different fantasies, it's got little niches, because a lot of my characters are from England or from multicultural, European and all that. And you're like, where do you focus? Where do you put your focus? And maybe the answer is you take it in turns, or you could maybe focus on rom-com on Instagram because that does really well there, or you could be focusing on tropes and universal fantasies on TikTok because that seems to do well there, or you could be even talking about the fact that it, the character driven aspects of it in your email, because you've got longer, you've got more words that you can put in your email, and they're already your warm market, aren't they? So they've signed up and they're interested, and you can sell them more on the kind of the character based or the locations, and sharing kind of some bonus content, can't you? Like that. I want to talk about the different aspects of marketing. So obviously, there's so many different platforms. Do you guys differentiate? I can't say that word, but you know what I mean. The way that you present your books, depending on which platform you use. And if so, which one would you agree is probably the strongest one to target if someone is listening to this and going, I can't do everything. I need to just focus on one thing. What advice could we give?
I think it's really tricky because, for one thing, some people are just going to personally enjoy a certain platform more than others. If you're hating a platform, it's going to be really hard for you to be successful there. Mm-hmm. I've seen people be successful on every platform, right? And sometimes things will be really hot on one, and then that platform will change and it'll shift to another one. So it's also important to be flexible and to be looking at other things. I've seen a lot of rom-com authors do really, really well on Instagram. Really, really well on Instagram. And I haven't seen that so much on TikTok yet. On TikTok, it tends, in my view, to really go more towards fantasy and paranormal. If you're talking about the big overall trends of readers and what works well on Book Talk, it tends to be more fantasy. But that could change at any time. And the more authors that are out there showing their work and finding readers for other genres on TikTok, the more that's going to grow. So, you just have to figure out where you want to focus, because you can be successful anywhere. And as much as we all say Facebook is dead and Facebook's not the place, they keep doing surveys out for readers. Where are you finding your books? Where do you like to follow authors? And Facebook is winning by enormous margins. Mm-hmm. So I think us calling Facebook dead is us also not giving it the attention it needs in some ways. So,
well, and if you think about it, who is on Facebook? Mostly it's older people. But who has a lot of time to read?
and
My
yeah.
fan base is mostly older people. And so I think
Yeah.
that's definitely true for Facebook.
Yeah. And so for like when I look at Kindle Vella, a platform like TikTok would do really, really well because that platform is going to be much more successful with very young readers versus older readers who are not going to want to get into the buying tokens and reading by episode thing. But younger readers are already used to web comics and all kinds of other serialized fiction platforms. And so like, yeah, there's definitely a lot to keep in mind when you're trying to make those decisions. But I would also say don't try and do everything, right? We already talked about how much authors have to do. Don't try and do everything.
That is so true. I mean, when you're looking at, so if you're a new author, you stepped into the ring, you produced this rom-com book, and you're like, okay, now how do I find my readers? Do not open a TikTok account, an Instagram account, a Twitter account, a Facebook account, start doing a newsletter and like spin all those plates, because in my experience, you're going to do a bad job of all of them if you try and do it all at once. Yeah, and maybe Michelle, you picked up on that. Go where you feel like excited. So if like, like when I go on to some social media platforms, like whenever I go onto Instagram, I feel all of my insecurities are like here, right here. I feel I'm not very good with graphics, and I'm not very pretty, and I'm not very good with house stuff, and I'm not very
Stop it now, Laura.
Well, it's all of that. It's in your face, isn't it? And then I go onto Facebook and I'll write a post and be like, Facebook hasn't shown my post to anyone because the algorithms, you have to like that. So I don't know if they've changed it, but when I did sell lots of products on Facebook through, I sold cosmetics online, it was like this whole full-time job. Like you had to message people and be chatty with them, not talk about what you're selling at all. Don't do that. Just talk to them. It told Facebook that you were friends. Facebook would then slowly show them a few of your posts. And then also go and comment on other people's posts. When they reply back, it tells the algorithm, oh, they want to see your stuff. And it's like, it would take about 7 to 14 days of doing that before you start getting some momentum. As soon as you stop doing that, stop engaging, Facebook does not show your post to many people on your list. And I have found that personally, every time I share anything, all the people who see my posts are authors, because that's who I'm talking to. I have family that don't know I'm an author. Like that blows my mind. But anyway, but then I go onto TikTok. I'm a total hot mess, and I'm free to just be like authentically silly and crazy, and I don't feel judged over there. But I know that one man's meat is another man's poison. I know authors that hate TikTok and they love Instagram. So you go where you feel the most comfortable, and they all have their own different languages. The only advice I would give is stay away from Reddit unless you write lit RPG, and then maybe. But Reddit's not. I tried to advertise on Reddit. Did you know you can do Reddit ads? I spent like
I've never been
$300
involved with Reddit.
on Reddit ads, and all the comments were like, ew, people kissing. Ew, couples.
That's
It
funny.
was like my 10-year-old son went on there and wrote loads of comments. I was like, oh dear.
I will say that there's a lot of things where you can cross post. So you can cross post from TikTok to Instagram automatically. You can automatically post from Instagram to Facebook. So that, if you can connect things like that, then it can help you still have a presence under the platforms, even if you're not personally going there very often.
That's a really good idea. I also add, like I when I can be bothered, I put, because TikTok's short videos, they usually fit in a story, so I'll put them on my Facebook story or my Instagram story. Otherwise, my Facebook page is like it's just this desert of nothingness until I'm like, oh, by the way, I just released a book. Bye. Anyway, we do have some questions. I just wanted to, if I press this, oh, it worked. Okay, I love technology. How do I pronounce your name? Sorry if I get it wrong. Is it Lanus? Would you say that? Did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? I don't
Looks
know.
like a good guess.
What made you choose the clean romance genre as opposed to steamy? I will answer that first. It is, honestly, I would love to say it's because I have morals, but it's not. I mean, I have morals. Sounds so wrong. But it's because if I get any further from, like, if I can write a really steamy makeout scene, but as soon as things get a little bit more heated, I'm literally going no. No. I cannot do it. I even thought, I'm going to do a pen name and nobody will know. And I'm going to write something really naughty. And I remember trying to write this paragraph and my face was like on fire. And my husband walked in and he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, nothing. No comment. And I realized it's not, I just cannot do it. But anyway.
And you know, I've seen a lot of steamy authors actually say that when they first start writing steamy, that they have the same experience. And then sometimes after writing it for a long time, they get to where they're just really burned out on writing those kinds of scenes too. And that's one of the reasons a lot of people move into clean romance is that they get to where they're not interested in writing those anymore for a range of reasons.
Ah, interesting.
For me personally, go ahead, Victory. Nope,
I was just gonna say I write clean because that's why I read, and I think you should, if you're consuming a lot of one genre, that's probably what you would be most apt to write, just because you know that genre really well. So that's what I read.
Yeah, and I would say for me, it's definitely a personal preference. It is driven a lot by my personal beliefs and standards that I have, and also the fact that I want to be able to write stuff that I'm comfortable giving to like my teenage daughters. My daughter reads everything that I write. And I want her to be reading stuff that is, holding to the standards that I'm trying to teach her to have. But the interesting thing about it is that it allows me to understand storytelling in an important way. We talk a lot about the focus that clean romance has on the tension and the actual story, because we don't go kind of like so focused on the steamy scenes there. And I think that with the surge of people loving K-dramas right now, because of or despite the conservative nature of the romance in that it kind of helps, and the rise of clean and wholesome as a category on Amazon and how it's been hot and trending for so long that it's attracting steamy readers to it, or steamy writers to it, shows that there is a huge portion of the population in this country that either prefers clean romance or is totally fine with clean romance. And so if you're looking at trying to broaden the appeal of your book, you're probably going to reach more people universally with a clean romance, or you have the potential to. And also, I just think used to be a time when people who preferred clean romance had a really hard time finding it outside of like a Christian bookstore. But a lot of them are not even looking for Christian romances, right? It's just recognizing that there's a market and there's an audience that has been underserved for decades. And I'm excited to be part of the, group of authors who are finally meeting that audience's needs. So it's kind of multifaceted for me, but I'm really excited about it and love it a lot.
Yeah, I love it too. Yeah, it's easier to market. I think you have less limitations. I know that Amazon is tricky to market, especially if you write like very steamy, like erotica. That's very hard. I just shout out to everyone who writes clean romance or sweet romance, because you guys, you are producing content that is not just Hallmark, because for years all we've had is Hallmark with like one flavor of clean romance, and now I see this huge spread, and I just love it. I love it that there's clean romantic fantasy now that you never used to have, even clean paranormal romance. Guys, like in solidarity, like I support you. And I thank you, because it's awesome, and it shows that there are a lot of readers who are hungry for that material. So, Amy, do you have I don't think I got your reason, or was it just?
I think it's just what I like to read and what I'm comfortable writing. But go to the marketing aspect, and they talk about the 4 quadrants of what creates a breakout novel. And the more you can fulfill or you can reach those 4 quadrants, so it'd be like preteens, young adults, middle-aged, and then older adults, the more people you can bring in, the more successful you'll be. Which is why people who read steamy will read sweet, but people who only read sweet will not read steamy. So you actually have a much bigger pool of people to pick from to advertise to than just saying I write just steamy. And I think too, like there's just so much more to storytelling, I think. And I like being able to dive into that. I like the tension that you get to allow. I like writing nice guys. And I think a lot of times in steamy books, you have to make them mean to keep the tension high enough, because once the sex has already been fulfilled, then there's nothing really keeping the reader around. And I don't know. I like writing guys that are just nice. Not that I'm saying that there are mean guys in steamy, but there's just, there's a lot more you have to do to create that tension to keep the pages turning as they go, as the story progresses. So that's why I chose that.
Yeah, fair enough. Good points. And also, The Office, I don't think has any like steamy scenes in it. And yeah, it's like, that's crazy. I know it's TV. Sorry, I always liken stuff to TV, but that's gone like crazy. And it's like you say, it's like all the quadrants. Like pretty much everyone can watch The Office.
Yeah.
And,
so the more people that you can reach with your books, the better it's going to be for you. And everybody thinks like if it's hard and sweet romance, okay, I'll just go write steamy. Yeah. And they don't realize that there's way more competition in steamy romance. You've got more trad published authors that are over there writing for them, or they get a book deal and they say, okay, now you got to put sex in it. So like people seem to think that that's the easier portion, because it is easier to say, hey, this book has this sex scene in it. But I'll see TikToks that have to do with the sex scene, and I will know nothing about the book. I won't even know like who's the main characters or like what's their motivation. I know nothing. And so I think sometimes the people have this idea that, oh, it's going to be easier, and it's not going to be easier. If anything, it's going to be harder, because now you have to establish yourself on another level of why should I read your steamy book versus this other person's steamy book.
Yeah, it's true. This is a really interesting question. I want to put it, I don't know how much we'll show, but how do you go about doing social media for a sweet rom-com pen name if your face is already associated with steamy romance books? It's a very good question.
Well, I would say if you've been branding your actual face as something, there's so many other ways to brand than just using your face. And I would
you could do your elbow. My elbow is hilarious, guys. This is the rom-com. Sorry.
Is this where I agree? Never mind. I'm going to shut my mouth down.
I'm sorry.
I have seen authors use like their logo for their the face of themselves on social media, or maybe a caricature like what we do with the Writing Gals. Oh, we need to change that one, by the way. It's wrong.
Oh, yeah.
To update it.
Yeah. We're just slowly moving into the new branding.
So I would say rebrand that with some other image rather than your face. And that's what I would do.
And another pen name, if if you just feel like writing steamy and sweet under the same pen name is a tricky idea. It's because it is, like it's not just your face. you might have to start from ground zero, but it really depends. Like we said, you could have a lot of steamy readers be perfectly happy to read your sweet stuff when you put it out. But if you start collecting sweet romance readers, they might get really upset if they go look in your backlist and all they can find is steamy stuff, which might, just hit you with some bad reviews or some frustration or them not, going looking at your books anymore. So if your backlist is all steamy, you might just be thinking about a new pen name in general.
Yeah, and if you have a pen name, I don't know though. I know authors that use their same picture for. I'm looking at you, Elena Johnson. There's several pen names. They somehow figure it out. I do wonder if there's an element of you don't get a lot of crossover. I mean, I think it goes into what like Anne-Marie was saying, when you're targeting a brand new reader into your books, they don't necessarily know you or who you are. So I think if you're lazy like me and you just want to start a new pen name, then as long as you keep your accounts somewhat separate, I bet you could probably get away with it for a while. Or fun thing, you could change like the color of your hair, like using Photoshop, and be like,
There you go.
paranormal, I'm green. Like, oh, it'd be so fun.
So lately I've been thinking about steamy and clean romance as like Cheetos. And that seems kind of funny. But like my kids love flaming hot Cheetos. They really like the spice. And that's like, they want it a lot, right? That's their like first pick. But if I have regular Cheetos in the cabinet, they're going to eat it too. And there's people like me, I could not eat flaming hot Cheetos if like my life depended on it. It's just like not even close to being my preference. But Cheetos doesn't completely rebrand itself to sell the two different lines, right? It's still Cheetos, and everybody knows the basis of what this Cheetos thing is, and they're just looking for whatever is signaling this is the spicy version and this is the regular version. So there's no reason like why you have to completely change everything, but you need to have a very strong way to signal to the reader, this is this thing and this is this other thing. I'm doing them both.
Yeah.
They're both from me, but just be aware that there's a difference, right? So it's just like, I think how you want to approach it and what would be easiest for you.
That's so true. That's why it's so important. Make sure your blurb and your covers are making that clear signal of what it is that you're offering. And then, gosh, we have talked about so much today. I feel like my brain is expanding. What I love is that as much as we talk about, like we're talking about rom-com, but it could be any genre. We don't have to pigeonhole our book into that one genre. Obviously, we write to market because it's easier to market something that we know what the genre is. But we also know that with bestsellers, they often straddle a lot of different genres. When you look at the Marvel movies, they incorporate nearly all of the genres into one. And so if you are writing whatever genre you are, I think sometimes it can just be really helpful to funnel down and look at what your characters are like and what's different about your book, because there's going to be a lot of enemies to lovers books out there. So it's not always going to be enough, is it, to be like, hey, this is an enemies to lovers book. It's like, well, great, I've seen 3,000 of them on my Facebook ads like today. What makes yours different?
Yeah.
So
can we talk about covers briefly? Because that was one of the things we mentioned we were going to talk about, and it kind of like goes along with all of this. So I've been seeing a lot of like promos that rom-com authors are getting together and doing. And they will have like the big graphic that has all the covers on it, and it's amazing, how they all are so carefully like the rom-com branding. It's very obvious what to all of us who are looking at rom-com at all what the rom-com branding is like. So it's very repeatable. It's very easy to like do that thing, but there's a point at which you try to figure out like, how am I writing or branding to market, and how am I making space for myself to get noticed and rise above and be something fresh and new, right? And so I think one of the things that I've tried to do with covers, and I've been working on the cover for my next rom-com, I try and look at what is it about this thing that they all have in common in broad terms, and how can I kind of hook into that same thing in a new way, right? So that I can be a little bit different. Because I think that's when you start to get attention from readers, and differentiating yourself from the crowd is when you are enough alike that people recognize what you're doing and what you are, but there's something new that catches their attention and hooks them. And so, like, you don't necessarily have to do vector art to be rom-com, but you probably do need to have very simple, very graphic type cover, right? Without like a photograph with like a lot of background stuff and a lot of information and a lot of things to take in. It probably needs to be like very, very, very simple. The font can be all kinds of different fonts. In general, something playful and fun, right? And also the way you arrange your font is not just like the line across the top of the book. Rom-coms tend to have a more playful font work to them, like how it's arranged on the page that makes it, almost tell its own little story in a way. And you don't even, I think this is kind of what I'm going for my next cover. I don't think you have to have people on it, because there has been the trend of having the, like the very understated covers lately. How do we take that into rom-com? So like my next rom-com cover, which hopefully will be revealed in just a few weeks, is going to be without people in it. But it's going to keep a lot of this. It's going to have the same colors. It's going to be vector. It's going to have the, playful font. It's just not going to have the people. So it's going to like be a little bit different, right? Than like everything else out there, but so much the same at the same time. So I think that you just have to, look at the broad ideas of what rom-com covers are and what they're doing and why, and then find your own little way to twist it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. So we want our covers to all be the same but different.
Yes.
Good luck with that one. Because we all say that they all got to be like the same kind of covers, but different.
How can you be to market but stand out from the crowd?
Yeah, easy.
It's not. It's so hard. But I think that's so key in a lot of ways, isn't it?
But Michelle, you're smart, because there is a trend for rom-com covers with no people on them that's really graphic as far as the typography and stuff. There's a trend for that. It's just maybe not the trend right this second with indie published rom-coms. Everybody right this second, indie published rom-coms are all going towards the vector art with the couple on the front. But there is definitely a basis for doing what you're doing. And that will signal to people, oh yeah, I know that's a genre that I know, it's a rom-com. So it's not like you're going out on left field and just saying, well, I'm going to do something completely different.
No. And that's a good point too, that like sometimes we get so focused on our exact category within the genre and what everybody within that category are doing. And if you broaden out a little bit and look at like the top 100 bestsellers on Amazon, and not just the bestsellers in your exact category or in overall romance, or all the different steam levels. I mean, there's so many different places that you can go and see what is attracting readers. So, and I've learned this from watching Book Talk and Instagram and Goodreads and all kinds of things, is that readers respond individually to a cover, right? Yeah. So like they will just look at a cover. There is a point for just being like, wow, that's a great cover, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of just being like, oh yeah, this has a man and a woman on it, it's romance. Or, oh, this is a vector cover, so this, this has the colors and flavor of a rom-com, it must be a rom-com. I always really like to just have the, wow, that's a great cover, because if your cover is great, you can even break a few rules, right?
Absolutely. And that's like the perfect wrap-up, because we've talked a lot about how we can market rom-com, but then the bottom line is your book might be rom-com, but it might also have other genres in there that might work as well. So some people can go more risky, go for a book that will straddle different genres, especially I think if you are marketing over social media, especially with TikTok, where you perhaps don't even show the cover. Like a lot of books I've sold I hadn't even shown them the book. And a few people were like, well, I'm glad that I didn't see the cover because I thought that cover was like a children's book because they're not used to the rom-com look. They're used to different looks.
Yeah.
So I think that was a really good discussion, guys. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for your questions. If you're watching this back and we're no longer live, but you still have questions, please feel free to put them down below and come and join our thriving Facebook group, the Writing Gals. We're always happy to have anyone ask questions, even if they've been asked lots of times before. We welcome and encourage that and would love to see you over there. And if you enjoyed this video, give us a little like, thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell so you know when we're live again. And until next time, keep writing. Have a great week. Bye, guys.
Bye.